Chapter 6. Stella. Whoever decided secondary school should start at 8 a.m. should be canned. If it were up to Stella, school wouldn't start till noon. Or 2. Honestly, did she even need schooling at this point? She knew exactly where she was going in life, and she had designer shoes to do it in. But first, her father was insisting she finish school. School, which started at an ungodly hour. Sigh. Didn't anyone in England realize young ladies on the cusp of entering society needed their beauty sleep so they could grow up and be big, strong, and powerful? She was that already. But still, sleep was important when one was helping one's father build a fashion empire. And an empire was way more important than learning science. Dad agreed with her, of course. They agreed on everything, including the House of Deville fashion line, which in just a few years she would run with him. He'd all but promised her when they'd moved to London from the country. Stella, my love, no one has taste like you. How would I ever run this company without you? He wouldn't. Stella knew that. She kept Dad's finger on the pulse of who they should be dressing and for what events. From high society players to politicians to young movie stars, Stella followed them all and made sure Dad's people approached them to wear their dresses, scarves, shoes, minks. While other houses, Christian Dior, Coco Chanel, focused on the big names like Elizabeth Taylor and Audrey Hepburn, Stella's approach was different. She watched the players in need of a bit of help with the press, the ones who weren't approached by Chanel or Dior. For example, take that young star Janet Leigh, the one from Angels in the Outfield and Holiday Affair. She was going someplace. She needed to be wearing House of Deville, which was why Stella had Dad approach Leigh's people about her wearing the line at her next London premiere. Then there was the Queen. True, Deville clothes were a bit edgy for someone like Queen Elizabeth, but Stella wasn't giving up hope. Norman Hartnell might have been the Queen Mum's dressmaker, but no one had been deemed worthy of Her Majesty yet. Never count yourself out till you're truly out, Dad said, and Stella agreed. And so here she was, dreaming of being introduced together with her dad as recipients of the Queen's Royal Warrant at a soiree in Buckingham Palace, and boom, 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 that bellhop had the nerve to knock on their hotel room door. "Miss Stella, your school bus is here," he called. "They're waiting for you." Stella sighed loud enough for the bellhop to hear her. She missed their home in the country, but Dad said a true fashion label should be headquartered in London. The city was rebuilding after the war, and Dad wanted to be where the action was. He just hadn't settled on an actual home for them yet, which is how they'd wound up at the Seville that autumn. They'd taken over a whole floor, with Dad booking 2 of their finest suites. Their meals, when they had them in residence, were all room service, delivered from 5-star restaurants like the one downstairs. They'd been living there for a spell now, and the staff was so familiar with them they even sent up biscuits and tea most evenings after supper. But the staff, Stella thought with annoyance, was staff for the whole hotel, not just for them, like they'd had in the country. Dad had let the servants all go, even Emily, who had wept when she'd said goodbye to Stella, having been with her since Stella's mum died soon after childbirth. Stella had kept her chin up. The Villes rarely shared their sorrows, but losing Emily had been hard. "We don't need all that staff, darling," Dad had said. "We're self-starters." And they were. But Stella missed having someone wake her for school, fetch her a fruit platter for breakfast, and make sure her clothes were pressed instead of having them sent out. But Dad insisted, "I don't want so many eyes around Stella. Someone might steal our ideas." For that reason, he wouldn't even allow housekeeping to clean their suites unless Dad's right-hand staffer, Bennett Hammond, was present. Bennett was the only one Dad kept on after the move. When they'd sold off so many furnishings, moving their favorite pieces to the old DeVille Manor in the country. Stella hadn't been there in years, but Dad said he was fixing the place up for them. In my day, your grandparents threw such lavish parties. They went on all weekend, he told her recently. Guests started calling the old manor Hell Hall on account of how hard it was returning to regular life after a weekend there. Dad said he couldn't wait for the place to be ready. It sat an hour outside London, so they planned to spend weekends there. Dad said she'd be the belle of the ball at their first soiree, which he was planning to host this summer. Before that, however, was the House of DeVille's premier fashion show in London for the spring line. Dad had been working on the lineup for months. So Stella dreamt of parties, fashion shows, clothes, and people bringing her fruit platters. But all those dreams were shattered by a bellhop banging on the door for her to get up. It was all so uncivilized. "I'm coming," she barked. "Make them wait." Stella liked making people wait. She also liked making them nervous. Dad had said making people nervous was a good tool to have at one's disposal in the workplace. He'd probably been at the office for hours already. She was alone. Lazily, she'd risen from her queen-size bed and stretched her spindly arms over her head. Her school clothes had been returned with the rest of the wash over the weekend, so she already had an outfit waiting for her on a chair. Most girls wore navy or green to school. Such drab colors. Why would one want to blend in? The Highbrook School wasn't the first school she'd attended in London. She'd started in Howell Academy, where the headmistress was so strict an untied shoelace was an infraction. Stella had hated the school since day one, and truth be told, the headmistress disliked her as well. Not that Stella cared. She just kept doing what she wanted, gathering infractions like they were prizes, till the school called her dad one day and said it would probably be for everyone's benefit if Stella went elsewhere. And now she was at the Highbrook School, which wasn't as hellish. Their rule book said students could wear anything in the blue, green, white, and black family. She rolled her eyes when she read that. Black went with everything. She should know. Her hair was half black, half white, split right down the middle part. No, her hair was not some high-concept fashion plan or a faux pas at the hairdresser's. She'd been blessed with this unusual mane and was thankful for it. "You were born to stand out," Dad liked to say. She wore collarbone length, usually straight, occasionally with a slight wave to it, never covering it up with a ghastly hat or scarf. Hair like hers was meant to be seen, feared, scandalized by it. It was her best accessory, which was why she had to wear clothes equally as mesmerizing. She slipped on a pair of form-fitting black and white plaid trousers and kept on her slippers. The plush white slippers were too comfortable to be abandoned this morning for school. Yes, how radical. She topped it off with a white sweater that featured a massive plaid bow pinned on the right side of her chest, just beneath the fur collar on the top. With a quick brush of her teeth, a swipe of red lipstick and pearlized eyeshadow, and a spritz of perfume, she was out the door, handing the gaping bellhop her oversized red bag to carry for her. She walked down the hallway, neither acknowledging him nor walking fast, allowing him to smartly rush ahead of her, press the down button for the lift, and wait for it to arrive. "I'll let you ride down first, miss," he said, even though Stella failed to acknowledge him. She held her head high and stepped into the lift. He handed her back the bag. When she emerged, the lobby was busy. People checking in, checking out, having packages delivered, room service being sent up to rooms while others chose to dine in one of the restaurants. Stella ignored all of it, even as eyes found their way towards her, as they inevitably did. She strode through the lobby, sure but swift, towards the revolving door. The bellhop ran ahead of her again. "Miss, your shoes! Miss, you're wearing—" Stella turned her head slowly, relishing the way she was making the young man squirm. Sweat dotted his brow, and he dabbed at it with a yellow handkerchief. I'm wearing what? He leant in slightly. House shoes. Slippers, miss. She raised her right eyebrow in surprise. Yes, she said, her voice slithery and smooth. Is that a problem? He looked confused. No, miss, She brushed past him and went out the door into the early morning fog. Have a good day, miss, the bellhop called after her. But she didn't bother to turn around. She watched as people gaped at her appearance, whether it was her hair, her slippers, her trousers, or a unique fashion sense. She didn't care. All she cared about was that they stared. She was someone who should be seen, even on a foggy morning. She didn't apologize for lateness. She just held her head high, enjoying their reaction. The bus doors opened. You're late. The bus driver stopped himself when he saw Stella step onto the bus, with nary an apology ready to roll off her tongue. He fixed his hat. Good morning, miss. Stella didn't acknowledge him, nor did she make eye contact with any of the other students waiting on the packed bus. She wrinkled her nose in disgust. Public transportation felt like such a step back compared with being driven to Portledge School, her last educational establishment before moving to London. But here she was. Dad said every child took the bus in London. That meant everyone had to smell liverwurst sandwiches being eaten and sweat and cheap perfume. She'd only been at her new school a few weeks, but she'd managed to avoid having to sit with anyone on the bus yet. Some of the girls tried, however, complimenting her ensemble or asking about an event or party they saw her at with Dad in the papers. She knew they all wanted to talk to her. They wanted to be dressed by the House of DeVille or invited to some of their parties. An invitation to their first fashion show was coveted as well. They weren't getting one. These girls were hangers-on. She hated that. Sure, she liked adulation, but she despised when her peers were over the top about it. She'd been scoping out the scene at the Highbrook School since she'd arrived, and Stella hadn't found a single girl she wanted to befriend there. She particularly couldn't stand the group of girls who sat in the front of the bus, always wearing nearly identical ensembles and headbands like sheep. They tried to catch her eye, but she refused to look their way. This morning was no different. Morning, Stella, said one. Go away, Stella replied. Those trousers are a hoot, Stella, said another. Where did you stop talking? You're giving me a headache, Stella told her, still walking. Stella, said one with brown hair, stepping out into the aisle, forcing Stella to glare at her. The girl was wringing her hands on her skirt, her face contorted with nerves. Hi, we sit next to each other in math. Stella thought the girl's name was Libby. Or was it Lonnie? Lana? Who cared? I'm Lizzie Witherby, the girl said, pronouncing her name slowly. The headband did not suit her hair at all. My family owns the Weatherby Diamond? Stella blinked at the girl. We're not interested in buying jewelry, she said coolly, then kept going, looking for a seat. No, I meant, did you want to sit up here by me and chat? The girl tried again, her voice waffling. She picked up a newspaper as if she were about to hand it to Stella. The girl wanted her to read? No, absolutely not. Stella didn't bother saying no. She heard a boy laugh. Then the girl, Libby, Lonnie, she already forgotten, sat back down fast. What Stella wanted was an empty row of seats. You can sit here, said another girl. I brought fruit to share. I noticed you like bananas, so no. Stella cut her off. Here comes Cruella, finally making her arrival known, said a boy with floppy blonde hair and a nose currently too big for his face. He made eye contact with her, as if to dare her to comment on the nickname. He'd been the first to come up with a juvenile nickname, so she gave him a wicked smile. Out of my way before I tell the whole bus what I call you, Stella barked, and Roger Radcliffe dove back into his seat. Where was an empty row? There had been one every day she'd taken this blasted bus, but today, usually the back row was empty, but today she spotted a girl with reddish-brown hair she hadn't noticed before. She wasn't entirely pitiable. She liked her pale pink sweater with the teal flower that matched the one on her headband, and she liked the sweater singed with a belt. Her skin was porcelain, and though she wore no lipstick or eyeshadow, the look worked for her. So did the way she'd woven her hair into a small chignon at the back of her head rather than leaving it loose. Intriguing that they both had the same idea that morning to add a brooch to their ensembles. Still, Stella didn't want to talk about these things. She walked to the back row as the others watched. Move, Stella said with a deep sigh. The girl looked up at her then, her dark eyes stormy, like London most days of the week, and she gave Stella a look that could pass as ice. If you want to sit down, then sit, she said, her voice moody and lilting, bordering on anger. But I'm not moving for anyone. Every one of those boring people on the bus turned in stunned silence to see Stella's reaction. Well, today just got interesting, Stella thought. The girl looked vaguely familiar. Were they in the same form? The same class? She couldn't be bothered to know who was sitting around her. All she knew was no one talked back to her. Not their former servants, not the bellhop, not even the headmaster at Highbrook School or her teachers. She was a DeVille, and she demanded respect. Did this girl not know that? Stella placed one hand on her hip and looked down at the girl, raising one eyebrow at her in surprise as she hissed two words low and slow. Excuse me? Heaven knows we've been waiting for you to grace us with your presence for 15 minutes now, already making all of us late to school, the girl went on, her gaze holding Stella's, which was even more surprising. Maybe you don't care about being late, but I do, so no, I'm not moving for you. I'm sitting here already, so if you want to sit next to me, do it, or find another seat so we can go. Stella pursed her lips. Who was this girl who had the nerve to stand up to her on a school bus at 8 a.m. on a foggy morning? For a split second, she felt a rumble of rage. It subsided just as fast. She liked this girl's moxie. Stella's face broke into a slow smile as she smoothed her sweater, then slid into the seat beside the girl, shocking her and the whole class in the process. The girl couldn't hide her surprise as Stella extended a long, slender hand, which featured a jade ring on her pointer finger. Stella liked the reaction. Don't mind if I do. I'm Stella DeVille, she continued, shaking the girl's limp hand. And who might you be?